Good morning and welcome to the West Salem Advisory Board meeting. Today is February 4th, 2026. We'll start with there.
Ashley Fisher. Jeff. All exposure. This officer. Dr. Ross excused. And the shop excused. Oh, sorry. Sorry.
Do I have a motion to approve the agenda? Do I have a second? Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Approval of the minutes from January 7th. So, thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
This is public comment period. Now, are you ready to share?
My name is Alan Shannon, and I've been a resident here around Salem since 1998, mostly building in West Salem. I'm here to ask the West Salem Redevelopment Agency for help. I have two remaining lots in Salem that I've been holding for my own personal residence for long-term retirement. Basically 72 now, and if I have a retirement unit down in the Edgewater for the past few years. Can't move forward on it. So there's a storm main encroachment on my corner lot. If you look at this picture here, there's a storm main that runs from Murlock Street straight to a manhole, not in Edgewater Street, but in the park area next to Edgewater Street, and it cuts the corner of lot 1. And can't build on top or near this corner. So I have to stay 10 to 15 feet away from it, depending on how deep this storm main is. So I need help in removing the storm main back out into the street over Lark and Edgewater, so I can have my corner back and I can finish designating a house that goes all the way to the property line, which I believe is what is encouraged here. So I found out. Pardon me?
The city have an easement.
The surprising thing about this, there was no easement recorded, and I had Fidelity National Title check on that last year. I had the City of Salem Planning, Public Works check on that last 2 years, and they couldn't find any easement document. There was no mention of the storm, and I bought the property about 20 years ago. Otherwise, I would have found out about it. So I was real surprised about it. But you know, how that happened is neither here nor there. I just need to move forward, and it seems like there's some mechanism here within this committee that can help me move forward to develop this property. So it's mentioned in the West Salem Urban Renewal Plan. Many goals that I believe is applicable to my property. It mentions eliminating blight. It mentions working private development. It mentions assist property owner rehabilitate and to reach a highest and best use for the property. Obviously, right now with the storm main in the lot, I cannot reach the highest and best use for that lot. But I was also encouraged to see that on the second page where it's listed under the utility their own utilities to allow efficient development of the area. Construct or reconstruct utilities, including water, sewer, and storm sewer, necessary to encourage and develop properties. And then down below on the page, it also mentions housing, why housing units, diverse housing type, owner occupied. That would apply to me. I've been trying to design and build my retirement house and basically move down from my 5 acres on Bryce Hill and West Salem down to Edgewater where it's more walkable, whereas where I am now, it's not walkable at all. So I believe it's a good area for seniors and retirees to be. But unfortunately, I can't do that because I have a small pipe encroachment that I need help on relocating. So having said that, I'll put the questions that I want to ask me.
You have a suggestion plan to remedy this? Is there another storm drain or something? I'm not sure what the blue lines represent here on this picture, so is there something that you have?
There are many utilities. This is a topo color map from Public Services. So the blue line represents water. There's also a green line that represents sewer. The black line that goes through my property is the storm water that goes eventually flows down to the Willamette River. So remedy that.
So does it not have inverts?
Pardon me.
Does it have inverts for that pipe?
When you say inverts, what do you mean by that?
That means the invert elevation, so it would give some.
It has been
indication
TV'd
how deep-
before, it has been TV'd before, I don't have the results of that. I tried requesting for it, but there are inverts, I believe. For the pipe on Merlar Street and in First Street, and there are inverts for the manhole at the Edgewater Park. So, given that, we can find out how deep the pipe is. But I have not been able to get that information from. So back to your original question of what kind of remedy am I seeking? I'm hoping that the redevelopment agency can help me relocate this pipe into Merlar Street and Edgewater Street. So I can have my corner to design a live work unit or a duplex that's right up to the property line. Right now, I cannot design a house right up to the property line. On lot one.
So
It's zoned to everything under the sky. Residential, Tori can answer that better. Residential, commercial, mixed use, retail, live work, townhomes, duplex, quadplex, just everything to work with. But given the fact that Edgewater has been and still is a tough area to develop, it's best not to over design, to over invest. So I'm just going in there with a simple senior unit and hope that works. And my plan is to develop on lot 2 first, which is on the inside next to the greenhouse by the karate place. And then if I do a decent job on that and it seems like there's good public interest, then I will design and build on lot 1. So that's my plan, is to take it one step at a time. I think it would be foolish of me to spend $1 million to develop lot 1 and 2 together and not know if the market's going to accept what I want to put in.
Out of curiosity. Okay, out of curiosity, what kind of design did you have? Was this gonna be ground level living? Did you have 2-story? What kind of design?
Right now, I'm looking at on lot 2, duplex unit, so the lot is 50 feet wide, the duplex unit 25 feet wide by about 100 feet. So I'm looking at a 2-story unit where the first story definitely has a master bedroom and master bathroom for seniors, so they can climb the stairs. And I would do the same thing on the other unit. And when I talk to planning, they always try to encourage me to do something with a higher density, like a quadplex. So a duplex is on just 2 units. If I try to do a quadplex, then I may have to go up to 3rd level, which would add to the expense, and I'm sure willing to take that risk. But the parking, I believe I would leave the parking in the back where First Street is. My duplex unit would not be 100 feet deep, it may be 60 feet deep. So I believe the parking is only 1 or 2 cars required for the duplex unit, but I'm not sure about that. But I think the site will accommodate the parking. I'm sure that they're parking.
There's, yeah, I think now at the state level, off-street parking. I know it's still required, but I think a lot of that's the state requirements.
Yeah, the other unknown about parking, your EV parking, increased on Edgewater and Merlock adjacent to my development because the city wants to take 5 feet away from me on Edgewater. There's currently like an 8-foot sidewalk there now, so I have another 5, that's 13. On the Merlock side, the sidewalk there is also about 8 feet, so there may be opportunities to add more parking by putting in diagonal instead of parallel.
I guess my question was, coming from this meeting, I mean, you're asking, I'm not quite clear in terms of specifically what your ask is. So,
Well, let me be more specific. What I'm asking for is the city design a solution for the storm to be removed from my property and to put it in Merlark and Edgewater Street at the city's cost. At the city's cost. Because there seems to be funds in the program to do that, and I'm asking the city to consider use of that.
and at this point, I also ask the city to explore the options and explore the options and design possibilities. So the city would initiate that.
As far as relocating the storm pipe, yes,
Okay.
because I have no expertise in.
Alan, do you know if, so we have a pre-application conference where Harlan Steve and those developer talk through site shoots. Do you know, so just to clarify too, the thing that's shown on here is floodplain. I don't know if you want to speak to how you address elevating the building to be out of the floodplain, but I understand too that it probably triggers improvements to the alley to the north. Is there anything required from your meeting? As far as development related, I know that there are things, like one of Merlark stuff, I think has updates to Merlark and then the alley, but I don't know if your development specifically triggers those things. Is that communicated to you?
Let's see, question. So you mentioned, did you mention floodplain at the beginning of that?
Yeah, so that's what that is, right?
Okay.
Let's through.
Well, we all know that Edgewater Street and Merlar Street is in the floodplain, and it falls about 12 inches short of the floodplain level. But if we go up and down Edgewater Street, you'll see newer buildings with their finished floor about 2 feet above Edgewater. So I would try to do the same thing. The example not to look at is the green building next to me where the bookstore and the karate place is, because I believe their finished floor is still too low. But then the other half of your question was.
So I guess as far as the fill, it would be similar to what was done for the Goodwill. They had to do a lot of fill to elevate that to go on theirs, further east of your property.
I don't plan on filling, if I don't have to.
I just build up the building.
Yes, the finished floor will be, on posts and beams. So I don't, plan on building my lot up to Edgewater at all, no.
So then the other thing was, so where, things up, what was. Shows up. Yeah, so you don't have to have. Yeah. And then I was just wondering, in the conference, if there was discussion around, like, if you had development related improvements to your side of Berlin, to get that up to standard or not. And the alley that's to the north. It used to be First Street, that's changed to an alley. I know that has been.
No, I realized that First Street was changed from a 36 foot right of way. To I think what 24 now.
Yeah, you still have to do the full right away with trees. And
Right,
but there's
but
some
I still have to do pretty much the same amount of improvement because. When the city agreed to make First Street more narrow. They just signed the agreement with the adjacent homeowner to the north, which is the old part of the building owner. They didn't come to me or the bookstore people, because the bookstore people, they didn't want to approve any changes to First Street. So while I think the city did was the correct choice to go ahead and change First Street into an alleyway with the adjacent owner to the north who was willing to sign the document. But what that means to me and the book owner is that we have to widen First Street on our portion. Our property line did not increase, but the property owner to the north, his property line increased because the city. I don't think the city gave it, probably had to pay something for it, but he got the benefit of.
Question, so just so I'm clear, on what, the situation is, so we have a reinforced concrete pipe that's running through the property. Just on the, map right here, how far back would then your property have to be offset given the current conditions? I mean, we're making an improvement, how big of a difference is it gonna make on the property?
Well, if this map is accurate and that black line representing the storm pipe, customer property there, then you go 10 to 20 feet to both sides.
Okay.
And I would right now estimate that that cuts off about a third or more of my development potential.
Okay, you did it with the bisecting, yeah, angle, right, goes to one, right, yes.
Cause you gotta be deep enough for your trench shield and then lay back.
Yeah.
So they usually 15. And you put the deeper. They're wider. But. Yeah, it's gonna harvest a ton of that. 790.
So just to give an idea of how deep it is, I believe we're talking about close to 14 feet if you measure from the street level at Murlock and Edgewater. It could be as deep as 14 feet.
And the big stuff is that deep out there.
If it's not, that'd be great, yeah.
Because First Street, when it flooded 96, 97, had no outlet. So I don't think it's that deep.
Okay.
I stand corrected. If not, I'm just going off of.
Well, that would be better for a situation.
Yeah,
And part of the remedy, what I hope the city can do, that the city engineers can do is. Let's not dig up the old pipe, let's just cut them off at Perlar and Edgewater, leave the pipes there. I'll figure out something to brace my building over it. And then so the city only has to do its work under Murlark and under Edgewater and don't even bother with the old pipe, just leave it.
so our role is advisory, I'm not sure we have resources.
Yeah, so this is just public comment, so he's sharing and then. This is something that I can. Already put inquiry into public works to learn more about what it would take to move this and other. Impacts I know there things to the alley and to our, so.
Sarah, building policy,
No, I don't have that information. So right now, Alan's just sharing. This is a concern for renewal, so we have a grant with a couple of buildings, I think you mentioned past. As far as applicability for the grant program that we have, you need at least 4 more units for multifamily, so we've shared that. So just keep that in mind. Another way you can address this is, you know, merging the lot into one, have an easement, and then building a multifamily on the one big lot. So there are options there that we have.
Going back to what you just said, merging lot 1 to 2
Yeah.
into just one lot.
Yeah.
So when the requirement is to build a quadplex, then we're looking at building a quadplex with this one more through one.
Yeah.
Whereas right now, a quadplex on lot 2 and a quadplex on lot 1, that's a total of 8. So I'll be taking it down from 8 to 1 if I merge those two lots together in the second grade.
Well, I mean, you don't have setbacks, you could pull it, you know, you can just do one bigger building versus 2 separate buildings. I don't know, I think
that's
there's
building one big building, because that just requires a lot more cash outlay, and I'm not willing to take the risk on Edgewater to do that. One of the fortunate things about Edgewater Street is that transients continue to be a problem. They walk up and down Edgewater Street, and they even started drying their laundry on park Edgewater Street. So when I told my wife that, she said, I don't think there's any way I'm gonna move into your retirement Edgewater if there are transits down the park. And I don't blame her for saying that. So I spend half my time in China out of the year, and I wouldn't want her to be home along at Edgewater with transits of across the water meters.
Are there any proposed future improvements for this site?
There's not, I mean, typically like Second Street, so we do ones in, I mean, as far as an urban renewal project. We've done improvements that affect multiple rather than single, this is really affecting the one lot. But there are needs to improve the alley and Merlart, that's why I need to get information. Is there's, Allen's lots to the south, but there's also the development property. So there are things that we can probably do to try to impact the single. We have a grant program, so even though we might have like this storm, we have site things that we can do with the grant program to offset those costs, but also with the building costs, we help minimize that site things. So I just need to know more on plans. If Merlart doesn't have to be improved, where does the storm drain go? Then we'd have to like tear up the asphalt, relocate it off the property. It just has more impact. So I just need to know more as far as like the alley and Merlart to understand where. I mean, it's a concrete, it's like 12-inch concrete storm drain. So it's gonna be something.
I would say from my point of view that if the storm pipe isn't relocated by the city, then lot 1 is pretty much developed by me and by any other developer contractor. I have had a number of contractors and developers look at this, and they stop asking me questions when they find out about the storm name underwater. So if you don't do anything, then we're just looking at developing lot 2. And nothing.
Well, thank you for the comment. So I'll interact with the other staff and find out more, then I can keep in touch.
Okay, well, thank you so much for letting me speak. Thank you.
That
If we have a vote, but it has swearing.
there's, so you guys can do, yeah, you can take action to make a recommendation. I don't know how you frame exactly relocating the storm. I would say you probably want to know more. How you frame that? Because it's probably a cascade of, like, when you're, say you frame a recommendation that you just consider project. What does that entail? Right now, we have a storm that's a project, but I don't know, it's gonna fit more hard. I'll find out more information, I can. How much it. Get an engineering estimate, an idea of how much it would cost.
I mean, you know, personally, it's just now trucks.
Yeah. That has to be improved, and that would help his and other properties around there. So I think Merlard and or the First Street Alley here. Good to do it. Or both. All like his. I see no harm. So I can bring it back to you guys, like, if you feel like you want to, but.
I've got sewer already.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, that's not bad.
Guys, we're here for a public comment, for a minute. The other things.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to action items. Your budget.
This goes back to the previous meetings that we talked about draft budget items. So in the minutes that has all the background as far as memo that I provided. What's included in the budget, and then the renewal plan reference projects. So now it's a matter of taking action to make recommendation to the agency approve the budget. And so some things to consider that I'm looking into. Doug, the last meeting, raised a flashing beacon on Edgewater application. So I've been interacting with Public Works. It's looking like McNair's going to probably be the best spot. There's already a crossing, the curves have already been improved, so it's just a matter of getting solar power flashing beacon. So we're finding out more there. There was a poll conducted throughout West Salem, Edgewater, Wallace was the main one. Of course, there's State Quad crossing at 2nd Street, Edgewater doesn't have the state crossing. But Wallace was in our district the highest concern. This McNary location was the second. So it's a good spot. We do have the small opportunity projects fund that's in the budget currently. What I understand, it should probably be enough to cover it. So it's as I find out more, the way the budget's framed, it would capture that type of project. I'll keep you guys posted. If it happens to be, that's all right. There's still flexibility in the budget to be able to offset costs. By having things like that. So, and there's still time between your recommendation and the budget. I mean, the budget goes through, or internally we could find out, say, for example, they have $100,000 small opportunity project line item at the 70 cost saving that 100,000. So basically use up all those funds. Then internally we could work with our finance person to say move some of the unallocated to that so that we could at least have 50,000. So that kind of work can still happen and still go through the process to document. Just letting you know, so if you look at it, you'll see a specific line item or the flashing beacons, we can try to find more information on it. And it can be funded the opportunity small. Something like what was proposed as far as Merlark and the alley, it'll take some time to get an idea of what Merlark would look like and the alley would look like. So that would probably be engineering estimate, like a design idea. We'd have to go out, do it if there were something you wanted that you had a recommendation that the agency supported it. It'd probably be after the budget season, slightly. So I don't really see a need to incorporate it now unless you wanted to make a recommendation and include. I don't even know the amount, honestly. So I think it's a good idea to probably just wait to see what we get as far as an estimate. So that's down there. Actually,
No. And I would be.
right. because you have the 2 points, I can forget about that, but it's not just a matter of moving it from his property, it's a straight line. So the animals, moderating locations.
Looks like they added. But you see the condemnation of water lines probably 3 feet deep, even if you dig yourself down 6, 7 feet. So problem. I mean, it's solvable and stuff. It's
It's all the excavation. I think these storm grants go pretty deep too. Anyway, I just see how many dominoes, what is the other impacts to?
I would also watching why it's kind of swing.
Yeah, the history. That's a good question.
Look at all.
Not mine.
Anyways, 50s, but I wouldn't.
Are there any questions on? Yeah, so I did put a draft. I like to have a framework for you guys to work from, so there is a recommendation that you guys can break it down. Well, it's that basis. Since your advisory, you make for recommendations.
I'll just make a recommendation. See, 2027 West End. We're gonna bring it all area budget. As percent. So,
Gotcha.
That was second by.
Thank you.
I.
6, I think it's from West End Station.
So Smith is, and she was well, as well as she was the association.
It is the last one. And. Thanks. Lyle, thank you, Lyle and Tim.
Okay.
Last name. Let's talk about the paragraph though for y'all. The whole county paragraph. So they can discuss those closing. Essentially.
They're Asia up.
They're attempting to, they are going to, they're doing the preemptive, they want to, they're putting out the question of if it was on the up for vote, would you vote for it? Start. There's a little different. That was he was supposed to talk about the Highway 22 and like Perrydale Road, that whole area, those improvements didn't end up really getting onto that. So just shared some stats, a couple of the roundabouts that are added. Perrydale Road. It's another one.
Next meeting is Thursday, February 6th. Or welcoming Jason Conrad, Salem Capital basketball team. This is especially as a very much local basketball team.
I should have asked you in public comment or Okay.
I'm just here to get, hear what's going on, hear kind of what plans are, thinking about.
Okay.
I'd like to have just more of a presence, so I have an idea what's going on, as I'm thinking about what we're doing with Wallace Marine, what we're jumping into the transportation system master plan, you know? Just all those things that I'd like to have a better idea of where we're headed, so I can help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'd like you to, as well, so we know what's going on.
Okay, yeah, I'm here for any questions, whatever.
Steps on that.
Yeah, I mean, the project's coming up that I'm looking forward to learning more about. Pedestrian areas. Is there any talk about lodging over here? Talking about Wallace, what we're gonna do with, well. with, the different park phases, how we're gonna improve it, what we're gonna do. I've heard different things about whether to expand the softball area, for example. Discussion with someone that, well, we can't put something permanent in there because what. Could be for lodging, maybe something like an RV park or something. To help with softball, you know. Just wanna be part of the discussion as people are talking about what we can possibly do. To help improve the whole area.
We have scope over Wallace and Park, is that part of, is that area for development?
That would be a private master plan type to the parks, parks, so I would. Not anything, I mean, we've helped, so we did the multi path at Wallace Spring Park. And I think we did like the path, so there are things that we touch on, but otherwise it's mostly parks master plan, park related.
Sure. Yeah, and all of we're, you know, plans for addressing, continuing to address homelessness in Wallace Marine. So,
Some poles to stick it or.
right,
It's,
so,
I'm not saying that, right?
yeah,
I
I
think,
agree.
right, I think the one thing that's been discussed is the bike path that would lead from Steel Bridge over to Water Street. That cuts through the area by the storage area and then that automatic shop. So I think that's the primary route.
Yeah, that's the project
Okay.
that's working on right now.
Right, right.
So. And are you familiar with it or?
Well, I mean, we've been talking about it for a couple of years. I remember when I did a tour, was riding the Salem bike fishing.
Yeah.
But I haven't really followed closely exactly what we're doing. I just get little bits and pieces.
I can show you really quick. These. Utility maps and like. So we're looking at our project. So what you referenced, Barney, is, so if you follow the Edgewater Parkway path, so it comes through and it's safe because it follows Wallace on the south side. So you can navigate this area has a landing, it's all been improved with the last ODOT accessibility improvements that they did. So the intersection is a lot safer to get through right here. I've walked this multiple times. I can say that I feel a lot safer. The traffic approaching to go onto the bridge versus those that would be coming off the bridge here, making that 40+ mile/hour turn
Yeah.
on the Wallace with double lanes.
Yeah.
So it is a nice approach. Where it gets weird is as you follow it parallel to the exit ramp in West Salem, you have walls on either side. So it gets, you're committed and you get to this point where you walk under that exit ramp.
right,
And that's where a lot of homeless reside right now. So we've been talking to ODOT because internally, we want to improve under here to feel safer. So ODOT will help improve that underneath. And then we want to walk with our path directly across to this is the path because this now to the street level bridge. So go be that connection to those two pieces.
okay,
So you have that whole, so there'd be some improvements here underneath the exit ramp, and then this would be a new connection to that existing path. So then it would basically be a link between the Edgewater Parkway. This route that can, if you wanted to take this into Salem, you have that option now. So that would be, this connection will be improved. And then we'd have this new connection. It would be my preference if I were walking it, I'd rather connect to the Union Street Rubber Bridge and take that route. Follow traffic. Bridge.
that makes,
This gives options.
yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I'm looking at down the road, Middle Center Street. What if we didn't have a walking area and we made the lanes narrower, put another lane on that way? I mean, there are all kinds of options.
Sure,
we
that
could do
just reinforces the need for this, if you were to use them.
Yeah.
And then we have the seismic, so all these things are kind of coming together, that's why it's taking a little while. And the path that we want to do is between two properties. And the property to the west is supportive, but the property to the east has safety and homeless vandals concerns. So we're working through some things to help mitigate that to where they'd be willing to give some of their property if it's an easement, so we can buy it, of course. That's just the conversation.
Sure, that makes sense. So speaking of the bridge seismic retrofit, since this area down in here fits under phase 2, which there's no funding for anything at this point. I mean, I hate for us to do something that's gonna be
Yeah,
impacted by that.
That's where we're talking about ODOT too, we wouldn't do anything. We wanna make sure, I'd rather follow it through, so where if it's impacted, they're doing improvements, then we can have a say. All right, let's start to talk about what happens with this underneath.
Sure.
Fencing too, cause I know like Salem around Market where there's a lot of unhoused, so we congregate there, they put in a lot of fencing, so. On this side, same thing, we have a lot of encampment area here. I think that there's a desire, community wise and probably for ODOT, exactly, get out here, so, yeah, have that conversation where it's fenced in, it's updated, well lit. Those are some of the concerns I would have. Since I walking in areas where there's less activities where then housed and congregate. And
Sure.
especially going underneath the exit ramp. I almost feel like I'm being that space. I just walking through, it's like, oh, did you? Yeah. So,
There is a fence right there, but it's.
yeah, no, it's old, it's,
Yeah.
no lighting, it's
Yeah.
rough.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we definitely, coordinated, we would have not wanted. Career projects.
Sure, I understand, but I also don't wanna put it off when,
Yeah.
who knows, it could be 20 years before they do phase 2.
Yeah.
We've gotta do something. And looking at it, I mean, in 10 years, they were gonna do something, they would have to fix.
I mean, that would be part of the
Yeah.
agreement, I mean,
Yeah.
if they're gonna take a while, we could say, okay,
Yeah,
let's
we
fund
need
this, but then you do, I mean, an impact. So.
Yeah, we need to do that. Looking at the funding and everything else, who knows at this
Yeah.
point when that part's gonna be done.
Based.
Yeah, I heard that,
I think it's.
to,
See,
it's 2015.
Yeah, 15.
The session,
This short section.
but anyway,
either way, it's. They're gonna have to do some magic.
Yeah, they definitely are.
I don't know how you ever achieve their trying. If phase two were forward without major impact. But you have to file. You basically would be reconstructing that entire viaduct.
Yeah.
So,
It's a
I mean,
huge-
but I agree with you, phase two is no surety. In a decade.
Yeah. Well, I hope phase one goes through, because we really need that water line. Yeah. And make sure we have a water line.
Yeah.
If there's an earthquake. Thank you.
As far as the neighborhood association needs to find this is the. There, Ross, yeah, the
Yeah.
Ross.
Yep.
Upstairs, now it's like the housing authority, something like that. Then they have, representation as far as like various charities like that might use. So they do updates. Infrastructure. Public. Parks. And then for the next meeting topics. We have Rob Robinette back, to revisit the conversation on the trail going through Wallace Marine Park. So I don't know if you've learned anything else new on that. I know that it was this quick thing that was on the council agenda that it got pushed back to say, go through, be with various boards and commissions, get some feedback, and so we'll be having.
Okay. Yeah, I was the outspoken person there, because that trail just kind of came up. And I got a lot of, pushback from Glenn Gibson Watershed Council, et cetera, for floodway can be put a paved path in there, structures. And it just seemed like the cart was going front of the horse, and I also wanted to make sure that SPRAB, Salem Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, had a chance to discuss it and determine what they want to do for the natural area in Wallace Marine Park, as the current plans are so old, et cetera, they really. So, the council approved the funding. Basically as a placeholder, the path isn't necessarily gonna have to occur, but the funding is there to look at improvements in that area. So that's, I know it came out in the headlines as, yes, we're gonna put in a path there, but actually I made sure that Rob said that this wasn't for sure, it's just a placeholder funding for the future. Okay.
So. Discussion. Adjourned. Thank you.
So is there demand higher